Hello students, today we will discuss about the venous drainage of upper limb, which is clinically a quite important topic because clinicians often puncture many veins which are present in the upper limb. So it is important for you all to know what are these veins present in the upper limb and clinically how they are important. So starting with this venous drainage, the upper limb is drained by two groups of veins. One group is the superficial veins and the other group are deep veins. So superficial group of veins, deep group of vessels. Superficial veins are subcutaneous, means they are present just below the skin within the superficial fascia. And the deeper veins, they accompany the arteries. So these deep veins always accompany the arteries which are present deeply situated, and they are present usually in the form of venae committantes. So what is this venae committantes? So if we see an artery, so for example I am drawing a radial artery here. So the veins are present on either side of the artery. These thin veins are present on each side of the arteries. These are called as venae committantes. So the deep group veins, they are present along with the arteries as venae committantes in the upper limb. The deep group veins, they drain the tissue beneath the deep fascia. So superficial to the deep fascia is drained by superficial venous system, and the deep fascia, they are drained by the deep veins which are called as venae committantes. So they are named as the name of the artery. Like radial artery means the veins surrounding it are considered as radial veins, like that. So these two groups, superficial group and deep group, they are connected by perforating veins. So the superficial group is here and the deep group, they are connected by perforating veins. So let's talk about the superficial veins first. So the dorsal venous network, which is located on the dorsum of the hand. So what you are seeing here, this is the dorsal venous network, which is located on the dorsum of the hand, gives rise to two important superficial veins which are called as cephalic vein and basilic vein. So this is the lateral vein which is above to the thumb is cephalic. It begins in the lateral side, and this is the medial side, that is above the little finger, is basilic vein. Basilic vein. So the dorsal venous arch giving rise to two cephalic vein and basilic vein. The palmar venous network located in the palm of the hand gives rise to median brachial vein. I'll show you. So the palmar venous network, which is present in the palm here, it gives rise to this vein which runs in the center of the forearm, that is called as median antebrachial vein. Okay. So first we shall discuss about cephalic vein. So here is the cephalic vein. It begins as the radial continuation of the dorsal venous arch. Radial means lateral. So here is the thumb. So the radial side means it is in line with the thumb. So it is the radial continuation of the dorsal venous arch which runs on the roof of anatomical snuff box. So this depression which is present, so when you abduct the thumb and extend the thumb, you can see a depression in the base of the thumb, that is a triangular depression which is called as anatomical snuff box. So from the anatomical snuff box we can see the beginning of the cephalic vein. So it courses along the anterolateral side of the forearm. So from here it goes to the lateral and goes to the anterior side. So this is the posterior side showing dorsal venous arch. On the dorsal side, dorsal venous arch. This is the anterior side. where we can see the cephalic vein which is running anterolaterally, which courses anterolateral surface of the forearm and then arm, and then between the deltoid and pectoralis major muscle. So here is the deltoid and pectoralis major. This is the deltoid muscle is here, and below is the pectoralis major muscle is here. So between the deltoid and pectoralis major, the groove is called as deltopectoral groove. So it enters along the deltopectoral groove along with the deltoid branch of thoracoacromial artery, and it pierces the costocoracoid membrane or of clavipectoral fascia and ends in the axillary vein. So here we can see deltopectoral groove. This is the deltoid. This is pectoralis major muscle. And this groove, I am drawing an outline here. This is the deltopectoral groove. The artery which runs along with the cephalic vein is the deltoid branch of thoracoacromial artery, and finally it terminates into axillary vein. So that is about cephalic vein. So it is often connected with the basilic vein by the median cubital vein, which is present in the front of the elbow. I will show you that. This is medial cubital vein, which is present in front of the cubital fossa, forming the roof of the cubital fossa. It is the content of the roof of cubital fossa. So this is the basilic vein. So that is about the cephalic vein. Next we shall discuss about the basilic vein. Basilic vein drains the ulnar end of the dorsal venous arch. So this is the ulnar side of dorsal, which is towards the little finger. So this is the basilic vein which begins from the ulnar end of the dorsal venous arch, passes along the medial aspect of the forearm. So this is the medial side or the ulnar side of the forearm, and pierces the deep fascia at the elbow. Slowly now it runs anteriorly. This is basilic vein. In the medial aspect of the forearm, that is anteromedial aspect of the forearm, it pierces the deep fascia at the elbow. So at the elbow or just above the elbow, it pierces the deep fascia and joins the vena comitatus of the brachial artery, which runs along with the brachial artery to form axillary vein. So the deep vein, what you see here is the axillary vein. So both the cephalic and basilic vein, they finally terminate into the axillary vein. Basilic vein, first it opens up into the vena comitatus. It joins the vena comitatus of the brachial artery to form the axillary vein. After formation of the axillary vein, we see the cephalic vein also draining into the axillary vein. So at what level it forms the axillary vein? That is at the lower border of teres major muscle. So that is about the basilic vein. Now we shall discuss about the median cubital vein, the communicating vein between the cephalic, this is the cephalic vein which is present on the anterolateral side. This is basilic vein. So the communication between these two is the median cubital vein. There are various patterns in this median cubital vein because the veins are not constant in all individuals. So the median cubital vein connects the cephalic to the basilic vein to the roof of the cubital fossa, and it lies superficial to the bicipital aponeurosis, which also forms the roof of cubital fossa, and it is used for intravenous injections, blood transfusions and blood withdrawal. So that is the main clinical aspect about this median cubital vein, because it is related superficial, it is related to the bicipital aponeurosis. So bicipital aponeurosis doesn't allow the median cubital vein to slip away from its position. Otherwise, other veins, superficial veins in our body, they slip away when you try to inject the needle. Here they doesn't slip away because of this bicipital aponeurosis, and that is the reason it is the vein of choice for intravenous injections, blood transfusions, and venous blood withdrawal. Next, about the median antebrachial vein. So this vein, so the median antebrachial vein arises in the palmar venous network. So this is the palmar venous network which ascends on in front of the forearm and empties into the basilic vein, or it may open into the median cubital vein. The last superficial venous set is the dorsal venous arch. It is the network of veins formed by the dorsal metacarpal veins which are present on the posterior aspect of the hand, and they receive the dorsal digital veins and continues proximally as the cephalic and basilic vein. So we can see it continues proximally, one side as the basilic, the other side as the cephalic vein. So this is dorsal venous arch. Now we shall discuss about these deep veins also. Deep veins, we know they are along with the arteries. So the deep veins we can divide into three sets: radial veins, ulnar veins, brachial veins. Radial veins receive the dorsal metacarpal veins which are present on the deeper side. So deep veins are divided into radial veins, ulnar veins, and lastly the brachial veins which are along with the brachial artery. They are all in the form of venae comittantes. Already I have shown you what is venae comittantes. So the radial veins receive the dorsal metacarpal veins, ulnar veins receive the deep palmar venous arches, and brachial veins are the vena comittantes of the brachial artery and are joined by the basilic to form the axillary vein and subsequently drains into subclavian vein, which is the vein of the upper limb. Axillary vein. So here is the axillary vein which is shown faintly because it lies deeper. So the axillary vein is formed by the lower border of the teres major. So at the lower border, it ascends from the lower border of teres major muscle. So below the lower border of teres major, brachial vein. Above to the lower border, it is axillary. It is formed by the union of brachial veins, vena comittantes of brachial vein and basilic veins. So it is formed. So it is axillary vein. It is formed by the union of brachial veins, which are vena comittantes of brachial veins, plus basilic vein. So this joins to form the axillary vein. And cephalic vein drains directly into the axillary vein. So it continues as the subclavian vein at the lower border of the first rib. The subclavian vein, sub means below, clavian means clavicle. It is a continuation of axillary vein and it starts at the inferior margin of the first rib, crosses superiorly, joins the internal jugular vein to form the brachiocephalic trunk behind the sternoclavicular joint. So behind the sternoclavicular joint, the subclavian vein terminates into the joints with the internal jugular vein and terminates into the brachiocephalic vein. And brachiocephalic vein finally drains into the superior vena cava. So let's talk about some of the clinical aspect of these veins. The first is the venipuncture. Venipuncture is in the cubital fossa, that is the median cubital vein. This is the median cubital vein, which is the vein of choice for intravenous injections and venipuncture. And veins in front of the elbow, not only the median cubital vein, even the cephalic vein, basilic vein are routinely used for giving intravenous injections and for withdrawing the blood from the donors. And also they are used for that median cubital vein is the most preferred because it is the most superficial vein in the body, hence the access is easy and it is well supported by underlying bicipital aponeurosis, which I have explained earlier, and it is also anchored to the deep veins by perforating veins. Hence, does not slip during the procedure. The cephalic vein is preferred for hemodialysis in patients with chronic renal failure, that is kidney failure. They undergo hemodialysis where they remove the waste products from the blood. So for this procedure, the vein of choice is cephalic vein. The cut down of the cephalic vein in the deltopectoral groove is preferred when the superior vena cava infusion is necessary. So if you want to do any infusion to the superior vena cava, the cut down of the cephalic vein in the deltopectoral groove is often preferred. Next is the cardiac catheterization. That is, the basilic vein is preferred for cardiac catheterization because the diameter of the basilic vein increases as it ascends from the cubital fossa to the axillary vein, and it is in direct line with the axillary vein. It is nothing like abruptly opening into axillary. It is in line with the axillary vein. So when you put any catheter, directly it enters into the axillary vein without any hindrance. And to enter the right atrium, the catheter passes in succession like basilic vein. So first I told you it enters from the basilic vein. So from the basilic vein we passes the catheter into the axillary vein, which is the continuation of the basilic. Axillary vein further continues into subclavian vein, and subclavian vein drains into brachiocephalic vein, and brachiocephalic vein it drains further into superior vena cava. Superior vena cava drains into right atrium of heart. So this is the procedure where you put a catheter. So that is the pathway for the catheter from the basilic vein into the right atrium for cardiac catheterization. So why we are choosing only basilic vein for cardiac catheterization? Why not the cephalic vein? The cephalic vein is not preferred for cardiac catheterization due to its diameter. So if you see its diameter, it does not increase as it ascends. Whereas the basilic vein, as we ascend, the diameter increases. But whereas for the cephalic vein, the diameter doesn't increase. That is one reason. Next is, it joins the axillary vein at right angles. Hence, it is difficult to maneuver the catheter around the sharp cephaloaxillary angle. So, at the point where it terminates into the axillary vein, it is almost at right angles. So, it is difficult to ascend the catheter in that particular point. That is one reason. That is called cephaloaxillary angle. Sharp cephaloaxillary angle. In deltopectoral groove, it frequently divides into small terminal branches. That is also one reason for not choosing for cardiac catheterization. So one of these branches ascend over the clavicle and joins the external jugular vein. So instead of going into the subclavian vein, you may land up entering into the external jugular vein. Okay. So these are the important reasons for cardiac catheterization. Why we choose the basilic vein? Why not the cephalic vein? So this completes most of the important clinical aspects of the basilic vein, cephalic vein and median cubital vein. All these we completed in this. So I hope this topic is quite interesting to you all. Thank you.